Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I am calling this meeting to order at 12:08. Sherry Williams, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I please have a roll call?
Gatlin? Berkowitz? Brooks?
Yes.
Bullock? Butler? Hickey? Ortiz?
Here.
We have a quorum.
You? All right, looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes for November. Motion by O'Gala, second by Butler. Any discussion? Can I get a roll call?
Ogalla? Brooks?
Yes.
Bullock?
Is Matt Murphy in the waiting?
Butler? Hickey? Ortiz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
No,
Next on the
he
agenda.
should be set up as a panelist, so we shouldn't have to wait.
Reports. We have the ISACO legislative reports, the ISACO news and views for November 25th, December 9th, and December 19th. Obviously, you guys can take your time, go through that, look through it. Just wanted to highlight some of the things that were in there. I'll let you know that the General Assembly convened from January 2nd to January 7th, today, for lame duck session. They're in their final work days for the 103rd General Assembly prior to the
No problem.
Fourth General Assembly. And their spring session calendars for both the House and the Senate can be located in the ISACO news report. So if anybody's wondering when they are going to be doing their work, you can find it there. I encourage everyone here to consider joining an ISACO Policy Steering Committee. There's about 7 different committees you can join by completing the form online and emailing it to the Legislative Advocacy and Research Manager, Nakia Hall. And NACO Legislative Conference is going on in Washington, DC from the 1st of March to the 4th of March. So if you're interested, please reach out to our wonderful speaker and let him know if you would like to attend. As we know, there are dozens of new laws that have just taken effect this past week. So if you would like to find out more about that, again, they are listed in the News and Views legislative report. And finally, I encourage everyone to review the news reports, as I said. I tried getting the county news onto the agenda, but I was experiencing some technical difficulties, much like we're experiencing technical difficulties today. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. We have our state and federal lobbyists.
He's not.
We are experiencing some technical difficulties, so hopefully things will.
There's nobody in here.
Otherwise.
Dave and Jeff Ronaldson.
But yes.
Did he use the link that I just sent him?
I'm sorry, next meeting, we will have
The
the
legislative?
county news in here as well.
Oh. Matt Murphy just got in.
With that being said, we are going to move on to our federal legislative updates. Is Catherine Beal here? Yes.
Hi, Happy New Year. It's great
Okay.
to see you guys. I'm also joined by my colleague Brett Garson and
Nope, I'm working on it.
sorry.
Again, like I said, technical difficulties.
Am I okay to kick off a quick DC update?
So the ISACO policies,
Yeah.
policy groups. So filled that out,
Nothing.
sent it in?
I'm trying to get Mike on the phone.
Didn't hear anything back.
No.
That happened to me as well. You just sort of got to follow up with them.
Just do it again?
Yeah.
Okay. And,
Hi, sorry, can you guys hear me?
Board members, can you hear us?
I don't think so, but I can hear you, Matt.
Yeah, and I can hear you guys.
Madam Chair, I believe staff is working on the system right now. You weren't aware.
Yeah.
Do we have dial-in capabilities?
Can the county board hear us now?
And have them here?
Yeah. Let's see what we got here.
Yeah. Nobody from IT is available.
Catherine, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. I want
Can
you
you
to
guys-
think about
No.
Senate 3387. Ensuring Safe and Toxic-Free Foods Act of 2023. And she can't hear us.
Sorry, can you guys hear us?
She can't.
So I was just wondering if you could update us on that.
Chuck, it's beyond my level.
Yeah, hold on. I'll try to reach Jason.
I texted staff guys to let them know we can hear each other and we can hear them, but they apparently can't.
Thank you, Matt.
We got our legislative, the legislative committee. We've got our lobbyists trying to dial in. We can't get any sound. We can see them, but we can't get any sound up here.
No, I'm in. I'm here.
All right, thanks.
yes.
Hello?
So can Matt talk?
Can you
Can
guys?
you guys hear me?
All right, I just got word that IT is sending someone up right away. Do we want to miss this or do we want to? Wait. No,
Looks
this
like
is
the
just all
captions
the
work,
agenda
but
updates.
they just can't hear us.
Oh.
Just hang tight. Kevin.
We have any, do we have dial-in telephone on this or
No,
nothing down here that's?
it's nothing that I'm aware of. I don't even see that equipment anywhere in here.
Yeah. I know.
This is why normally we have IT with us when we do board meetings. Any meetings. Mike, I'm in the boardroom. We got a meeting going on right now. We have our reps dialing in, but we can't hear them over WebEx. What do I need to do? Yeah, they're on WebEx right now.
Here, we
Can't
do
hear
have
them.
a few minutes while we're working on the.
They're panelists, they're unmuted, but we still can't hear them.
You did mention about NACO. And,
Thanks, sir. Appreciate you.
reaching out to The speaker
Thanks.
for interest. I just wanted to let the legislative committee know that that has already taken place. And I am discussing with staff right now about how many we can send. We did get 11 responses that wanted to attend. And what I had failed to do was to let the board members know that they may in the future have to pick and choose what conferences they will like to attend, because obviously we do not have the funding to send everyone interested to every conference. So I'm considering sending everyone that wanted to go this time. And then, like I said, in the future, you might have to be more careful on, we might have to be a little, tighten it up a little bit. So, and I'll probably be making that comment
Here's the update group shot.
here time and time, so folks are aware. But I figured this would be a good opportunity to let you guys know.
Thank you very much for letting us know.
Madam Chair.
So I'm gonna,
Yeah.
but I know I'm gonna have to withdraw. I'm not gonna be able to go that weekend. I don't know if I think I sent that out, now whether or not you got it, I don't know. I know you ignore my.
I know, if you did her, Mr. Brooks, I was gonna remove your name anyway, so thank you.
So they can hear each other and the board.
If I go through here.
Can you hear us now? No.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I just have to come back and say that I think that the speaker of the board has to make decisions, and if they open it up to who would like to go, it is really based upon their ultimate decision. We will be fine with whatever is decided then.
Thanks for pointing that out, Micah. Yeah, everyone is aware.
Hello?
Let me think. This wouldn't be it. This one. Shouldn't be that. Have him try real quick. Say something.
Need,
Go ahead and try to talk again for me.
is it working now? Can you hear us now?
Okay.
Okie dokie.
Hmm. Do you really? Yeah, they can hear you. each other, right?
Yeah.
Like talk, you want. I can try Matt Murphy. Right, ask that person. Hey, Matt, can you go ahead and unmute yourself and try to talk for me? We're gonna try a different speed.
I am unmuted on my end.
Oh, we hear Matt.
It's just that person. I can't do anything
So
for
then-
people that aren't here.
It's heard.
Okay,
First
can you
time.
turn Matt up louder though?
He's got to turn it up louder.
Oh,
It's on his controls.
Matt, can you turn yourself up louder?
Can I? I could try that.
You guys turn the sound up.
Or turn your.
I can turn this up.
Is that any better?
Might hear Matt without it again.
Try again.
Try again, Matt.
Is that any better? I've got the well,
Okay, now, so we have.
I'm just gonna max it.
RIT saying it might be something on your side for the system.
Can anyone else talk?
Can you
Uh,
hear me? Hello? Happy Tuesday?
Okay, we got her now. All right, we're gonna give this a whirl.
all right.
So can you guys hear us now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. Yes, we can hear you. Yay. Thank you,
Perfect.
guys. Um,
Thank you, IT.
Happy
Okay, we
New
have our
Year.
federal legislative update first.
Okay. Hey guys, Happy New Year. It's great to see you all. I'm joined by my colleague Brett Garson and also our colleague KP Pratt, who is an attendee right now, and that's okay. She'll be a panelist next month, having some technical difficulties on our end. So we'll just kick it off with a quick DC update, and then we'll turn it over to questions. So Friday was when the 119th Congress officially kicked off. So we're really looking forward to the next 2 years of the 119th Congress. The big priorities are going to be budget reconciliation, which is a complex congressional mechanism used for tax bill and potentially some healthcare provisions, some changes to mandatory spending, potentially some work on immigration. Pretty much, we expect that there's going to be at least one budget reconciliation bill. It's going to be huge. The committees are still kind of working behind the scenes and with President-elect Trump on what that's going to look like. And we will keep you guys updated through that process. Of course, just this week, things really haven't kind of kicked off totally yet because Congress yesterday certified President Trump's election results, and then on Thursday is President Jimmy Carter's funeral. And we also have a lot of snow in DC, so we're also on day 2 of a major snow day. So that's really kind of what's going on in the short term. Longer term, Farm Bill, as you guys know, and I know that the Farm Bill is a huge priority for you guys. Congress in the 118th Congress was unable to come to agreement on the 5-year Farm Bill, and so that process will restart this year. We expect, there's a lot of framework, a lot of policy positions from last Congress that will continue over now with the Republicans in control of both the House and the Senate. Things might look more like the House Agriculture Bill, the House Farm Bill, which, probably have some tweaks. There was some issues with the CBO scoring. I won't get into the weeds on that, but we will send more information as the agriculture committees release that information. The other big things going on this Congress will be the surface transportation reauthorization, which is the 5-year, the big DOT bill. And we will start to see some movement and preliminary hearings on that this year, with the actual legislation expected to pass next year. We know from the last committee that there were several transportation related, trucking and weight and those issues. And those bills, of course, didn't become law last year, but could be policy positions for the reauth this year. And so we will still monitor that. But we're expecting that this Congress is going to be a really busy, really exciting next couple of months. And so I will pause there. Of course, we'll keep you updated. But Brett, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, Catherine, I think you covered it really well. The bottom line is that there's just a lot of action that's going to be happening the next 4, 5, 6 months with a new presidency, with a new Congress, and we're just kind of getting started. We're going to be following early on with the administration releasing several executive orders in numerous policy areas, making sure if anything impacts local governments, we'll get you that information. Congress is still going to have to, as Catherine alluded to, pass the fiscal year 25 spending bills. We'll then start working on fiscal year 26. Right after that, they also have to raise the debt limit, which is it's kind of a complicated process, but political process. So there's just a lot of moving balls in the air. We'll continue to send legislative updates to you and jump on these calls, but feel free to reach out if you need anything else. I know that we typically work with the chief of staff for the board if you have any questions, and happy to answer anything, because we know there's going to be a lot going on and things could be confusing. We're also happy to work with you all on any sort of resolutions you might have in mind for NACO. We know the announcement just came out for resolutions. In years past, we've helped out with drafting, but sometimes there just isn't anything going on. Just want to offer that up in case there are some things you want to work on. But yeah, we're just excited for another year working with the county. It's been a really great partnership dating back even before my time to 2005, and really appreciate your time today. So thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that you would help with drafting resolutions for NACO, because I know Dan Butler here had a little bit of a trouble finding someone who would help him draft up the last bill that he had, the last resolution that he had. I know he was reaching out to Joe Boy and people like that, so it's good to have that extra resource. Does anyone have any questions or any discussion that you want to ask the federal lobbyist?
We start.
A Senate bill 3387. It was ensuring safe and toxic-free foods. I was just wondering if you knew where that went or what's going on with it.
Yeah, so that bill was introduced at the end of 2013, 2023. And that bill did not pass through either chamber, and so it didn't become law. So the bill kind of expired on January 2nd. I'm not sure if Senator will reintroduce that, but we will absolutely keep our eyes peeled for if it's reintroduced in the 119th Congress.
And then the
So
gentleman.
it was my understanding that that bill was addressing the fact that these processed food companies were able to just give their ingredients and they were to get passed, and the FDA did not inspect or approve the ingredients. Is that correct?
Believe that is the overall summary. I can take a deeper dive, but based on that, I believe that RFK Jr. as Secretary of HHS will likely prioritize sort of addressing what chemicals are going into foods. That seems to be one of his big priorities. So we'll also monitor executive actions related to that as well.
And just to add to what Catherine indicated, because it didn't become law in the 118th Congress, if they want to work on this legislation in the 119th, it'll have to get reintroduced. Just for background, all 4 senators who were lead sponsors and co-sponsors are still in the Senate, so it's very possible it'll get introduced early on this year, and we'll track that for you.
Thank you.
So I would think, it's Judy O'Gala, guys. Okay. I would think that for us, that would be something that we would like to see put forward in a resolution. Because I think it's important if you look and see an item you can buy in the UK versus an item you buy here, they have so many less ingredients and toxic ingredients and food coloring and everything. I mean, we probably have a conversation amongst ourselves and think if we want to have a resolution that we could bring forward that maybe like Brett can go ahead and help us with, if we as a board the committee think it's important, because I think it's important that we've seen, rise of Situate and kids with, who take, red dye or 41, whatever the numbers are, that they have in our food here that isn't found in other countries. And I think that would be something that we should look into because why do we want to have all these chemicals in our food if they're not necessary? Same thing, even like with McDonald's, I mean, that you have in other countries is not as complicated with chemicals as it is here. So we can talk about line, decide if we want to do. I think that would be, for me, it'd be important. I have little grandkids and, they're exposed to so much more than when I was young. And foods were not processed the same way. So I think that, for me, it's a good thing. My question though would be, far as anything that was filed in executive order, by President Biden, do you think that, there's been like a list of things or kind of make us aware if there's some action that something might want to be overturned? I know a lot of things happen at the end of our recession, so you don't have it all probably down yet, but if you could keep us aware that this executive order was put forward and you see that there's going to be a movement to maybe change that, reverse it or something like that. That's basically what I'd be looking for right now. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That shouldn't be hard to track.
So I have a question. Do you have an update on the Water Resources Development Act?
Yeah, I'll just very quickly, the 2024 Water Resources Development Act became law in December, and you may be familiar, that's the authorizing bill for the Army Corps of Engineers. It does changes to their policies, it authorizes new projects, and does some other things. And that process has since, I think going back about 12 years, gone on every 2 years. So they'll do another Word bill in 2026, which is crazy to think already to 2026. And so if there's anything that is of importance to the county related to the Army Corps that we want to have discussions or get language in, the time is really now to be thinking about those ideas. But the 2024 bill did become law.
And that is actually a great segue into my next question. So I am curious to know if you all are able to help us create and establish a federal legislative agenda. How does that process work?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
Catherine, you want to take this one and just the high level? Yes.
Yes, so every year we work with the county on the federal legislative agenda. Typically, that's done in partnership with the county executive's office and the board. So I don't believe that we have begun those formal meetings. So typically, we'll start by meeting with, they're in their virtual meetings with department staff, in addition to the county executives team, and then also members of the, one or two members of the board. We've not begun that yet for the upcoming federal agenda, but once we formally begin those processes, we will absolutely keep you informed and with what meetings there are and how the drafts are. I believe ultimately, once we have our final draft, it then goes to the board for your review, edits, questions and consideration before it's officially printed and distributed. But yes, we work with you guys every year on that, and we're excited to work with you on this upcoming one.
Thank you so much. I have no other questions. Does anyone else? Seeing none, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate your time. And we will be in touch.
Thank you guys.
Next we
Take
have
care.
thank you. Next we have the state legislative update.
Good afternoon, board members. Matt Murphy from Max Strategies Group, joined by my colleague Ann Schaefer. We are down in Springfield right now for the last day of the 103rd General Assembly. This two-year General Assembly will adjourn, as they say, sine die, sometime today. And the swearing in of the 104th General Assembly will occur tomorrow at noon The Senate is moving back into their Senate chambers tomorrow. For the last couple sessions, they've been over in the Howlett building as renovations on that wing of the Capitol have been going on. So everybody's excited to have them back in the building across the hall from the House. There was some similarity for us to the federal report in terms of the fact that the legislative session with bill numbers you may know is ending. So you can basically flush all of those bill numbers from your head. They don't exist anymore. Anything new will have to be refiled. We'll get to that in just a second. But other than that, about the only similarity is the timing of getting a new swearing in and the presence of snow. We have no change in chief executive. Governor Pritzker remains governor, obviously, and there literally was not a change in any of the 177 houses of the bicameral legislature. Not one seat switched hands in the November election. So you've still got roughly 2-to-1 supermajorities for Democrats in the Illinois House and Senate. They are going to again have the swearing in tomorrow. Following that, there will be the creation of committees for the new General Assembly, the establishment of leadership teams for the 4 caucus leaders. And that will be sort of an interesting process to see who remains in leadership, who doesn't, and so forth. We will know more on all of that at various points, depending on the caucus throughout the next several weeks. A couple deadlines for you as you contemplate your legislative agenda. January 24th is the deadline to get bills, ideas into the Legislative Reference Bureau that will draft the legislation for us. And the bill filing deadline in both the House and the Senate this year is February 7th. Now, as we've discussed in the past, that is not the last day you can possibly get legislation introduced and passed. It's just thereafter you need the cooperation of a caucus leader to give a shell bill to allow legislation to move. So to the extent that you are aware of what you would like to do, and we've had some conversations with representatives of the county already and are in the process of going forward with making staff aware and LRB aware of language that'll be coming. But if you have any other bill ideas that you want and you have the opportunity to meet that deadline, we strongly recommend that you do so. And the sooner you can get those to us, the better, so that we have the ability to get in touch with your state legislative delegation, secure sponsors, and submit these drafts to LRB in their name. Thereafter, then we will kind of go into the legislative session, which is scheduled to end May 31st. The biggest issue hanging over this upcoming session is the state budget. The state has, generally speaking, had been pretty flush with cash over the last half decade or so. This year, there are projections from the governor's office of a deficit of up to $4 billion. And that's off of a roughly $54 billion budget. So money is going to be tight, and it's going to be a stressful situation for a lot of legislators who haven't, frankly, had to deal with a difficult budget like this during their careers in the General Assembly. So it's going to be, as it always is down here, a wild ride. It should be a fun one, just the same, but we are eager to help you navigate it successfully and work on your behalf to get things done for the county that you all need. And Ann, I don't know if I left anything out that you think we need to fill in, but if I did, please jump in.
Nope, great overview. Thank you, Matt. And thank you to the Will County Board Legislative Committee. We are honored to help represent you in Springfield and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for that update. Does anybody have questions? Okay.
So, on a few of my trips to NACO, found out that we weren't alone here in Will County, that not only were many other counties in the state, but counties all over the United States were very concerned about the placement of these solar fields. That the counties wanted more control over how these solar fields were placed. I just wanted to know, has there been any movement? Have you seen any advancements in trying to achieve that goal?
The short answer, frankly, is no. You know, the legislature left at the end of May, came back for a couple of weeks, 5 session days in November for a veto session. There were no vetoes, so there was nothing to deal with on that front. And then they've been in since we've been here since Saturday for session for this lame duck session. That issue has not been raised since the legislature left the end of May. I've had this conversation, you know, with a number of the members of the board, and I appreciate you raising it because I think it's important context to have. The legislature not too long ago, so frankly, largely this legislature that's coming in, decided that they felt like they were having a difficult time achieving their renewable energy goals, and that they were having too difficult a time getting renewables, solar and wind, developed in Illinois. And they made the conscious policy decision to take away from counties the extent of latitude or discretion that they had in that process within their county, in an effort, frankly, to have more development occur. They made that choice. I find it highly unlikely they're going to completely reverse that decision. One of the other things, though, that we have talked about at length, and I would encourage the board to consider, is, and I recall over the last year or so, hearing of examples just in Will County alone, so I suspect there are more around the state, of maybe egregious circumstances where the state's decision to take away your county discretion, your local discretion, resulted in a negative outcome that maybe the legislature would not have wanted to see occur. And so to me, you know, if you're not going to get all of your authority back, and again, I don't see a scenario in the next 2 years where you will, is there a case to be made to get some of it back? And are those particularly bad examples and bad outcomes where your hands ended up being tied by the state statute, can they be used effectively to go back to the legislature and say, hey, maybe we went too far in what we took from the counties, and we need to give them at least a little bit more discretion back, a little bit more authority back to avoid these types of outcomes. So our collective best judgment is that more limited clawback of some of your authority is your most realistic chance at getting anything back from what the legislature took from you in this space. And I think that shouldn't just be a Will County focus, frankly. I mean, obviously, we are happy to help in any way possible in that space. But it ought to really probably be an ISACO push collectively with all of the counties and their representation like us joining in to try to help make that case.
Thank you, Matt. I know that ISACO has a solar wind committee that's been working on that. They had a meeting a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend that, but I do have the link for that meeting, so I'll make sure I get it to our chief of staff and he can send out. And we can also share with you guys so you hear what was going on. I know here in the county, we have, I think, 3 lawsuits. Is it 3 lawsuits that have been filed against us, Mary? 4 lawsuits. That is detrimental because our board has been pretty good at passing a lot of these solar facilities. And then we found situations, and mostly where they're close to high residential areas or very close to residential areas, that we've had people have voted against those, and then we've denied those. So, I mean, I don't know how many we've approved, a lot with the solar report. We can also share the solar report. You guys have never seen our solar report, have you, Matt?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, so if we could, I see Chuck has taken a note. We get that report from the land use department that tells us the solar facilities that have been approved and are up and running, other ones that have been wait, kind of sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't happen. Then we have a very short list of those that we've denied. Like I said, as a board, we've pretty much said, if it's too close to residential areas, we're trying to keep it away from that. And also if it's, doesn't fit the planning area for a municipality for residential, future residential, it's kind of like, those are the areas that we've denied. We've pretty much let it go everywhere. And, being a farmer, of course, I don't like that at all because it's an impact on our farmland. They haven't proven to me that it won't be negative to have solar for 30 years. These pilings put in the ground that disrupts the land. So I know that is going on. I was wondering though, my question, and I know that IDOT recently had a hearing down in Peatone for improvements between Moni Manhattan off of I-57 between Moni Manhattan and Peatone Wilmington Road. I know that they would like to see a new interchange. I know the mayors out there would love to see Moni Manhattan and Peatone Wilmington fully redone because they're really in bad shape, especially with all the truck traffic hitting Moni Manhattan and Peatone Wilmington Road going east. The cloverleafs there are not large enough to handle it. We've got a lot of estimates, visibility in that. I know we have a new one in for the airport that began long before some of the people in this room were even born, probably Anne herself. And to me, to put in a new interchange where there's a need for the one directly north and south of it within a short distance, it doesn't make sense. So what help can you guys give us with any contact with IDOT? And we've not talked about this as a board at all, but I think it's important to fix what we have that's currently in use, and if something might be needed, 10, 15, 20 years from now, that should be a back burner. How can you guys help us with any communication with IDOT on that stuff?
Well, we're happy to reach out to IDOT if you can get us some, just something in writing, sort of laying it out a little bit with some of the specifics. We can take that to IDOT, kind of see where things are at in that respect, and then also see if we can engage the area legislators. Now, is that Senator Joyce and Representative DeLuca?
Yes, it is, and Jackie Haas, the three of them mostly would have
Okay.
that area there.
And have they, Judy, have you engaged with them on that as of yet?
No, I attended the session. I did hear, it was the oddest session that you could go to. They had like 20 some people at the atrium in Peatone.
Okay.
And they weren't specific on anything. They just had a map drawn around it. It really went all the way over to Harlem Avenue to the west and Route 50 to the east. And then, like I said, really just Moni Manhattan to the north and Peatone Wilmington to the south. So it was just like a little square they drew about improvements in there. And I'm like, it's very little traffic because it's all agricultural land. We do have some warehouses in Moni, west of I-57. Down in Peatone, there's a new truck stop at the and then in between, we don't really have anything at all. That's the plan for that future airport, which may or may not ever happen. I don't know. So they're very vague. If you ask questions, they're very vague. And then I listened, and they told, like the same person told anyone who came a different answer. They were saying different things to everybody that was coming along. So it was just kind of a confusing, big show for me, but they had no answers, really good concrete answers to the people. So I don't know if you have access to look and see like what the people said. I know we were asked to fill out response cards or input cards. I did mine when I was there, and sure others did as well. So just for an update, how do we get information on that? That's where I live. That's the county board district, and then Dan has the one up north. So that'd be a priority of mine as a representative of the board. So you can help us out with that.
Yeah, we're happy to reach out to IDOT and perhaps the area legislators as well, and see if we can get some information around that and see where it is in their plan, what level of flexibility, which is not always a term that is associated with IDOT, there may be around this, but we're happy to drill down in on this.
Okay, and then one more thing. There are two really bad intersections in my area. One is at Route 50 and County Line. If you can look in to see if we can get an update there as to what improvements, and then also County Line and Route 1. Both of those have major accidents and fatal accidents. And I know they just had a hearing for the County Line one and Route 1. I don't know the one about Route 50. So any input on that, information on that would be helpful to my district. Thank you.
You bet. Absolutely. Yeah. If you don't mind, Judy, if you would include those two specifically in the email with the substance on the interchange, that would be fantastic.
Okay, we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Schaefer and Mr. Murphy, Speaker Van Dyne, very nice to see you on the screen there. And thanks for your time. I wanted to touch back with the solar farm conversation. You stated that there may not be a chance that the county does ever get any control on these solar farms. If that's the case, is there a situation where we can ask our legislators to maybe not allow these solar farms to even come to the county board for a special use permission? The reason being, the county board members are, I think, closer in touch with the residents than maybe the higher levels, such as the reps and the senators. And it seems like we're putting the county board members in a very difficult position when we don't even have a say-so in the decision, especially in the southern districts. Do you see a case where maybe they can help us out in that situation?
That's a very fair point, Speaker. I mean, it made sense for them to come before you when you had the full level of discretion that you had under state law. If they've rendered you effectively a rubber stamp, otherwise you're subject to suit. I can imagine legislators would understand that that's a bit of a frustrating place to be. It's either vote for something you don't support or your level of government gets sued. If it doesn't have any real impact anymore, or maybe just narrowing down what does come before you to what fits within your remaining discretion. I think that's a reasonable conversation to have as part of this broader conversation about what level of discretion you can perhaps claw back. But I think, I mean, it strikes me as a reasonable ask.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to add some input into that, because I find that, well, we are not helping with those lawsuits, that's straight to me. And I think if you take it out of that, then you have no say whatsoever. What I found, when I was chairman, whatever name it was, I found that solar companies made a good solar company, made effort, come forward to sit down and have a conversation with me, my chief of staff, to go over what we're interested in, what we don't like. one of the things is chain link with the board. Got one for, that ag fencing is much better for aesthetic and light countryside, so a lot of it. I know that, you know, I'd say like putting any type of landscaping around it. benefits-
Judy, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Our audio is failing us. It's very difficult to hear you. Is there any way to
Oh,
make it a
okay.
little louder?
You're kind of cutting in and out.
Can you hear me better now?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So, and I really am talking to like our committee here too, so I can put that in an email to you and Matt, my thoughts. You heard Joe, and then it kind of died out, but the difference is that we have been able to have solar companies work with us and the communities. If it's taken away from the county board, we won't have that. And our state legislators, they don't have that close connection like we do to the municipalities and the townships. So I for one would not like to see that happen, because we've been able to get them to work with the communities to make a donation. Sometimes they fixed a road in the area. They will do things that we ask, work with soil and water. And that was one thing that wasn't a big thing, is soil and water being involved, because we found out that they didn't get involved with soil and water beforehand. And now we've asked them through our solar guidelines and other processes to meet with them beforehand, to have a walk of the land. Because until you go out to the site and see what the farmland looks like, the type of soils, the topography and everything, it's hard to make a generic decision that this is the right type of thing to plant. So the state of Illinois has a list of good native species to use for grasses, as well as for, peas and things like that. But they're not always the best for every farm site, right? So with soil and water being involved, then we pick more specific plantings that are better for that area versus other areas. And going from the Indiana state line all the way to west, it changes dramatically the type of soils that you have. You have the sands down in Kankakee. So that's so different. So you're looking at different things. So having the county involved, while it is time consuming and it's labor intensive, I feel that we've been able to make a positive impact, because the companies are willing to do more than they're required to do for the AMA, because we've asked them to. If we as a board are taken out of that, then we're not going to have any of that. I think we'll be in a worse situation. So while it's time consuming and they have to come to us for a special use permit, I think it'd be harder to get any control back if we lost all control, versus being able to sit down and say, listen, we've done this legislation for 2 years now. These are the problems we're seeing. We need to have you guys work with us to put a fix. I think it's easier if we stay involved. That's my opinion. We've got some new board members here, 3 on this committee alone. We have Kelly, is brand new. You can see her down at the far end, the blonde down there, that's Kelly Hickey, she's new. To my left, it's Herb Brooks, he's new, and then to his left is Don Bullock. So she's new, she's a new board member as well. So they haven't heard a lot of this conversation that I've been, going with. I'm doing a long time now, but
Yeah. Well, no, Jude, I understand exactly what you're saying. And first of all, welcome to the new board members. Congratulations on your election. And I think, and obviously this is, look, our job is to run with the ideas that you as a board settle on. And there's probably, within what both of you just said, maybe a happy medium of sorts. To the extent that there is an ability that you still have under state law to approve or not approve aspects of these projects, staying engaged only to that extent, maybe there is a way to narrow what you're approving that keeps them in front of you and gives you that local opportunity to impact it, without having sort of the final ownership that you don't want to have when you don't really have the authority to make the full call. So maybe there's a needle to thread there, but regardless of how you collectively as a board come out on the question. We're going to do what you pursue the policy you settle on. And but I think it's an important question. And to the extent, I would encourage the board, to the extent you can, to sort of figure out how you want to proceed and what a majority of you are the most comfortable doing. And we will pursue that.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you a question about, it was my understanding that when you had solar power, that it was to be fed back into the grid. Has there been current legislation that allows us to store that power and not sell it back to ComEd and actually use it?
Not to date. There are conversations about, data centers and large energy users going what they call behind the meter and not putting energy on the grid and having it directly for them. So that concept is being discussed in Springfield. And this is all part of, we're in an environment where, excuse the pun, where, we have these significant economic development energy demands for things like quantum, data storage, and so forth. And in addition to just, our regular energy uses. So, and to the extent that we're electrifying cars and other, efforts that are being taken environmentally, that's more pressure on our grid. And so there is a need for more and more energy. And there's a lot of complicated issues around solar and wind and other reliable energy generation and the transmission of such. And so this is going to be, energy in general is going to be an extremely, again, here I am punning, hot topic this coming session. And all of this, to some extent or another, is going to be on the table.
Have you heard any legislation coming out about moving towards modular nuclear?
Well, this past year, the legislature, and Senator Joyce was the sponsor in the Senate, did lift the statewide ban on new nuclear that had been in place, ironically, since his dad had passed it, I think back in the 80s. So that concept is now authorized in state law. It's from everything I've heard, it's still pretty far out there time-wise before it really is meaningfully impacting our energy supply here in Illinois, or frankly anywhere else in the country.
Thank you. I'm Kelly Hickey. I'm one of the new board members. I represent District 10, which is Naperville and Aurora. And in looking through the notes, I am new, but I have been looking through the notes of the last meetings. And Mr. Murphy mentioned that transportation is one of the biggest issues that will be affecting Will County through the legislature. We just had a committee of the whole meeting last month where we met with many of the agencies and group reports. Any updates from the legislative side of what is going to be done, looking at this legislative or the fiscal cliff that's coming on?
From a transit perspective, do you mean, member? Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that. And it's an issue that we have pushed to have on the radar, because as a Collier County, under the current makeup of RTA, Metra, PACE, CTA, you have a seat on the Metra board. And this cliff is rather substantial. They refer to it as 733 million. But in reality, if you want to do anything other than maintain, it's, somewhere in the neighborhood of double that, which is obviously substantial money. And in the context of trying to get all of this money, there is a lot of conversation regarding reforming the oversight structure of these transit agencies. And one thing we feel that is important for Will County is to monitor and ensure that to the extent that your constituents will be continue to be consumers of mass transit, and as taxpayers are paying for mass transit, that you retain some level, an appropriate level of representation on any of the oversight boards that have particular impact on your constituents. These are all issues. There was a large delegation actually went to Germany in November, December, I think it was December, to study what they do on mass transit. I think they learned a lot, but probably learned of some of the limits of transferring all of the German ideas to Illinois. In some, the issue is still there. The problem is still really significant, especially in light of other budget pressures the state already has. I think they are coming together, the working groups on this. I think they're really just struggling with how to pay for it and what the best way to pay for it is. But it is something we're monitoring very closely for a number of different reasons, but particularly for Will County, because we do want to make sure that your interests continue to be protected by how these transit agencies are governed.
Thank you. We have to follow up on that. Can you make us aware of the House and Senate bills that come forward regarding that? Because I know that they wanted to change the entire structure, and I know that Will County wanted to have the ability to be involved and have representation and not lose that. So I know that those would be great for us to have knowledge of it beforehand.
Yeah, we absolutely will. And that I'm glad you said that, Judy. We have and especially for the newer members, I think it's important. Part of the process of what we do, I said before that the bill filing deadline will be February 7th. So you will see if it were in paper, it would be a literal crush of bills filed by February 7th between the 177 legislators here. It'll be into the thousands of bills. And it's a lot of information all at once. And, we utilize a tracking system. We incorporate search terms. We have a number of search terms that, based on our experience with you, we utilize to have bills brought to our attention out of this that will particularly affect Will County. And so we will share those on a weekly basis with you, your leadership, in reports, updating on legislation as it moves through the legislative process, so that you have the opportunity, as close to real time as we can provide, to know of legislation that's impacting you. So if you have concepts or search terms that have an interest to you for your district, please share them with staff and leadership, and we can get them and incorporate them into our process to make sure that we're sharing those with you as they arise.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I have a couple questions, but I know we are already taking up a little bit of time, so I'll try to keep it short. Like Kelly, I was also looking over the last meeting that we had, the meeting minutes, and I was wondering if there were any updates on the energy regulations or battery storage policies.
Matt, I can take that one if you want.
Sure.
So only a little bit is the quick answer to that. So as Matt made reference to before, energy is a hot topic. And they're talking about quite a few different things, and they had tried to keep it narrow. They literally called it a skinny bill, and it got even skinnier as some topics that were not agreed to were removed, or provisions anyway. And so they are in process now of passing House Bill 587 with quite a few amendments to it. And it has more to do with technical regulations than it does with any huge wholesale change. They decided to have most of the battery storage conversation hold off until the spring. So we will certainly watch that for you and keep you apprised as they work on that. And energy is one of those areas that's certainly not alone, but it's one of the key areas where there's a lot of different ideas and not everybody agrees. And sometimes they smash them all together in one bill to try to get support for those. They call them Christmas tree bills. And it's just an area where that tends to be what happens. In recent months and years, they've tried to slow that down and tried to do single subject. They just can never quite find the ability to do that. So we'll see whether they do a huge omnibus bill next year or they pick off individual topics one by one.
For that update. Like I said, a couple of these questions I'm just gonna end up emailing you so we can keep this short, but I did just have a small question about the state legislative agenda. This is my first time being on this committee in general and obviously chairing. Do you guys kind of work with the same timeline as the federal lobbyists, or how does your process work?
I think it's been pretty similar to the federal lobbyists. I think it's mostly something that you all develop and then share with us, and we're happy to provide some feedback, both on the logistics and the format and the approach, but also on some of the substantive pieces to the extent that you want. I know, having seen prior years' versions and then being around this last year, that some of what you put forth in your state legislative agenda are conceptual items. They are topics and they are viewpoints on those topics. And then some things are very specific positions on bills as introduced. And so for this upcoming spring session, bills will not finish being introduced for the most part anyway. As Matt made reference to, the crush of bills will be February 7th. So to the extent that you already know what you want to be in your legislative agenda now, it may look in several aspects to be similar to what you've done before. I would suggest that you go ahead and develop that without knowing those bill numbers yet, and we can stay in contact with you just as we always would, updating you as bills are filed or as bills are amended that might be of interest to you. And then you can, if you'd like, add specific bill numbers and positions on bill numbers to that legislative agenda as time goes on. But I would not recommend that you wait until that bill filing process concludes, just because things tend to move a little bit quickly. And you want to have your thoughts, I think, already out there on some of the theoretical topics, the concepts, and then we can fill in the bill numbers as introduced along the way, rather than waiting to start that process in mid-February.
That's good to know. And that kind of leads me into my next question. So as you know, we last year released our state legislative agenda pretty late in the year. And I just wanted to get your feedback on when you think a good timeline would be. Does that timeline work for you? Releasing it in November, December-ish, or do you think that's too late? Is it kind of ineffective at that point? When do you think would be most effective for us to get that legislative agenda?
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the release at the end of the year was more focused on looking for that November veto session as well, and topics that had been discussed kind of in that interim period since session let out in May. And so I would say, to the extent that it's feasible for you to keep updating those, yes, the most up to date is going to be the most helpful. Typically, an annual report is sufficient. But like I said, they do tend to introduce bills as the spring session goes on. So I think the year before we joined, I think in 2023, there was one legislative agenda sort of at the beginning of the spring session, and then an update maybe in April or May as some of those bill numbers were solidified or certain bills were moving forward or maybe had popped up. So all that to say, I think if you can get one for the spring session, great. But to the extent that you have the bandwidth to make a few updates as more information becomes available, that's always helpful to stay up to speed.
And I guess one thing to add, maybe as a focus, to the extent that there are bills that you would like to see passed that would have a positive impact on your ability to govern the county. The earlier those can be ready and filed, if we could meet those, obviously January 24th drafting deadline, that's hugely important. It's one thing, you're going to have two types of bills. You're going to have bills that you want to see passed, and you're going to have bills that you would like to help, have us help not make it. And those, we can have the agenda on that later. There's more flexibility on playing defense, but bills that, you actually say, hey, we want to see this passed, whether it's a quick take bill or something else, you want to have, it's just much easier if we meet all the filing deadlines at the beginning of session for that. And I understand that doesn't leave a lot of time, but it does make it substantially easier to navigate the legislative process.
That's really good to know. Thank you.
So because we have so many new people on this one particular committee, the legislative agenda that we passed at the end of last year, it was to prepare us to go into this year. It has all our concepts on there, what we do as a team, with the chief of staff. We have a new chief of staff now, and Chuck Pelkey. Don't know if you guys met Chuck. Chuck, did you meet them? Okay. So we worked on those. We worked with the different departments. We asked them what their important things were. So we put them all together in a general concept. So that booklet should be done and prepared. I don't know where we're at with that, but we did pass that. So we had that. Then, what Matt had talked about is anything new that we might have that we want to create in the legislation for those bills. But then also, once we have a list of all the House bills and Senate bills, 3 or 4 might pop up that really trigger us, right? So we might be very much in favor of 2 bills and very much opposed to another bill. We do a legislative update to our agenda that then we send an update down to, we send it to Matt and Ann, and they distribute it to our representatives here in Will County so that they know, hey, Will County Board is opposed to House Bill 2164 and they support Senate Bill 123, so that they know that, and we put support documents in there. So sometimes we're able to do that in a nice, timely manner, but because we meet once a month, but the chair can ask to have another meeting. Because we only meet once a month, there's a timing issue. So then what we did was the legislative chair, vice chair would find something that maybe Matt or Ann would make us alert to. We have a decision now. So when we meet with the speaker and the leaders on both sides, and if they came to agreement, yeah, we can support that or oppose it, we would do an update to our legislative agenda, write it all up, and then pass a resolution by the full board, the next county board meeting. Because sometimes, as you know, timing is totally an issue when you're talking about Springfield, things pop up and come up fast, go away fast, things like that. So we have to be able to act. So that's why our state legislative agenda is done at the end of last year, getting all the general concepts we see going into the new year. And then we tweak it as we go with legislative updates. And you can see a booklet of that we have. So that's why we made the document, not a bound document as much as a more fluid one, because the legislative update, our legislative agenda changes throughout the year depending on what comes up in Springfield that we may like or we don't like, and we don't know yet what they're going to come up with or what they're not going to come up with. So that's why we did it at the end of last year. So not late, so it's ready to give them something to go to Springfield. So when we have our legislative breakfast, whenever we have that, we can give everybody who attends one of those documents when they come for breakfast with us, and then Ann and Matt take the rest down to Springfield and distribute to those that weren't able to attend our breakfast. But that way they know, hey, these are the important issues for Will County. These are in support of or opposed to general concepts. And then, like I said, later on as the year goes, then we're specific with certain bills, whether it's House bill or Senate bill. So that kind of a work in progress. Thank you.
All right, well, that is all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will be in contact.
Our pleasure.
Thank
Thank you very much. Look forward to working with you.
So moving on, we have other old business. Is there any other old business? Seeing none, new business? None as well. Any public comments? Any online or anybody from the public here going once, twice? All right, public comment. Moving on to announcements by the chair. I don't have any announcements other than to say thank you so much. I am very grateful to be able to serve in this role as chair and to learn. So thank you for the opportunity. And again, please reach out to any lobbyists and myself if you guys want help with any resolution. Supported or opposed, just reach out. We're going to get working on that soon. Is there any need for executive session? Nope. Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Butler, second by Ogala. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned.